All right, Platoon, fall in. It is the New Year's edition of the Joe in the Jarhead Show. As ever, I am Joe, representing the United States Army. With me, my homie,
Jarhead! Hoorah!
representing...
United States Marine Corps.
There we go. Took him a minute, but he got there.
Took me a minute. Where's he going with that? It is a New Year's edition on New Year's Day.
Right?
This is awesome.
How awesome is this?
In a warm bunker, finally.
Right? Okay, gonna take a second, point this out. I mean, I wish we could spin all the way around and show you, but the producers have been hard at work in here. We've been kind of grunting and shuffling along and trying to keep up, but my producer especially has put a lot of work into this bunker. So I don't know if you can see it, tell the difference, but it's not just the flag. Like, we have paneling in the walls now. We actually have insulation.
We got carpet
We
down.
have soundproofing up. We have carpet on the floor, so we're not like sitting on an iceberg.
So you're not going to hear our teeth chattering anymore?
Right? Right? I can't see my breath right now. Life is good.
It's a win. Yes, it's awesome. We got good things in the news, too. So we talk about some awesome shootings in Texas? I shouldn't call it awesome, but the response was awesome.
I'm going to say that one of the shootings was awesome.
Yes, yes. What else is awesome is something going down in Seattle. Awesomeness in Seattle. You ever thought those two would go together?
I was not expecting that, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Buttigieg is having a drug war.
Yes, he is.
Mars in 2020. That's going to be real.
I'm not seeing it, bud.
And China's knocking on the door of genocide over there, y'all.
Yeah, about that.
Okay, before we get into all that, we always do history first. Mr.
Yes,
Joe.
sir. Alrighty. So this week in history, 1922, the Soviet Union was formed.
Is that when Mr. Stalin started rising up?
Vladimir Lenin.
Okay.
There was a revolution in October of 1917,
Okay.
which overthrew the Russian Tsar, Nicholas II. And it was this really weird, fluctuating government. It was the Russian provisional government while they tried to figure out what was going on. Mm-hmm. And then Vladimir Lenin and his boys overthrew that and instituted nationwide socialism.
Okay.
Which was communism. It's straight communism. There's no real use beating around the bush. It was formed by a treaty. So originally it was just Russia, right? Mm-hmm. And then they had the Transcaucasus, which was Belarus, Ukraine, and then all the Eastern Bloc countries. Mm-hmm. And then they added in, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, all the other little Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, all those down there in the south.
So these were like
later
states of Russia, kind of.
Yes. Yeah. In theory, it's kind of like the EU, where everybody's a voluntary participant, but all the decisions are made in one place, which was Moscow. And that was in place from 1922 until 1991.
Dang, no way.
Right?
I had no idea it lasted that long.
Yep. And then, Lenin was only in power for 2 years.
Oh, really?
And then he croaked, and Stalin took over and
He was a winner.
killed 30 million people.
Dang, that guy.
Like hundreds of thousands in like a year.
He's the one that got him through World War II, right?
Yes, but far and away the most casualties in any theater of war was the Eastern Front in Russia.
He was the guy, he was sending his soldiers into battle without even a weapon.
Right.
Once the guy in front of you dies with the weapon, then you pick that one up and go fight.
Right, because it came to be known as the Mao Zedong theory of warfare. Like, if I throw enough people at you, eventually I'll win. Mm-hmm. You're gonna run out of bullets before I run out of warm bodies to throw at you. And he can, because it's communism and you don't have a choice. In fact, he had commissars behind the lines with guns, who all had guns.
Oh, shoot them in case they
Yeah, and
retreated.
in case they didn't make it, in case they broke and ran back to friendly lines, they got shot.
So instead of using those bullets against the enemy, they use them against their own people.
Right.
It's socialism.
And that's this place is where Bernie Sanders spent his honeymoon.
In Russia?
In the Soviet Union.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
When it was the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Bernie Sanders.
Bernie Sanders.
As if I needed another reason to despise you, dude.
Right.
Oh, my gosh.
Yep.
Okay. Soviet Union.
Right.
I mean, clearly it worked for them, so we should bring that socialism stuff over
Right,
here.
yes. I mean, Yeah, I saw a great cartoon the other day. It was the difference between capitalism and communism. In capitalism, the bread lines up waiting for people to buy it. In communism, people line up waiting for bread.
My gosh. Truth.
Right.
That's awesome. Okay, Seattle. What is going on in Seattle?
What is going on in Seattle?
Oh my
Tell us,
goodness.
my friend.
So when the kids start coming back to school after this holiday break,
Okay.
they have 10 days to get their vaccinations
Okay.
up to par, or they can no longer go to public school.
Oh. Well, that's cool. I mean, I suppose the public demands some kind of action after you have like an outbreak in that region of an eradicated disease.
Right? A disease that we have conquered, and there are 2,000...
Back in the 50s.
2,000 kids, dude, in that state. That state alone, in Washington, in 1 year, which was actually last year. That's fun to say. 2019, 2,000 kids. So I'm not talking peoples. I'm talking kids. Under the age of 18, 2,000 kids diagnosed with measles.
Measles. Like, who gets measles anymore?
Right? I don't understand.
It's always going to be out there. You can't eradicate the disease, right? But you can completely stop its ability to be picked up by the human body.
It's insane. So what's going on is that, they adopted this policy, so you can't go to public school unless you got your vaccinations. So,
Good.
And New York has already done this. They did this earlier last year. Can't say this year anymore.
Good.
But to me, do you know, Joe, if something like that, a law exists like that, that our kids cannot go to public school here in Potatoeville if they haven't been vaccinated? Are you aware of such a law?
I am not.
Me neither. You know why? Because that kind of crap doesn't need to be instituted in a place where we take care of each other.
Right.
Nobody in our county here in Potatoeville would send their kids to school to a public place without being vaccinated.
Right.
It's like you always say, you play these stupid games, people are going to start instituting stupid laws.
Right.
You need a law to tell you to go get vaccinated against measles? I don't understand. How did they get to that point?
Because instead of listening to a doctor who says, hey, you need to get your kid vaccinated, they listen to their yoga instructor who says you can cure it all with essential oils.
Essential oils. That's a good one.
I mean, am I wrong?
That's awesome. But I do think this is awesome, and I wish it hadn't got to that point, but it's
I wish it wasn't necessary, but since apparently it is, I'm glad they did it.
Yep. It's time. They are necessary. Vaccinating.
There are times when people need saving from their own stupidity. That is few and far between. I am a huge proponent of as little government as possible. But the government should exist to serve the needs of the public. And if the public, because there are kids out there who legitimately are intolerant of vaccinations. They cannot be vaccinated for medical reasons. But if everyone around you is vaccinated,
then you got the herd mentality.
Then you got the herd immunity, where enough people are protected that the virus can't get into the public, and that person is protected by default. There aren't enough people around to act as a vector to transmit it to that person. So, good job, Seattle.
I'm on board with that, and I think it's important to talk about that qualifier because there are people out there who simply can't get vaccinations for medical reasons, but they are far and above the minority, right?
Right.
There are very few, and I compare that to abortions. Abortions are necessary in very few rare
like a
cases.
decimal point of a percentage of 1%.
Same thing applies with vaccinations. The majority of the people should go out and get vaccinated.
Right.
Should not be getting abortions.
Correct.
Okay. Moving on. Are we going to talk about Texas?
Oh, I would love to.
Let's do it.
All righty. So there was a shooting at a church in Texas.
Two things there.
Yeah.
Shooting in Texas.
At
a church.
Mm-hmm. Who shoots up a church? Like,
that's a special kind of
evil.
That
is a special kind of evil. That is, yeah. And the news has come out, released his name. I'm not going to say it. We never will.
Scumbag?
Yeah. Dirtbag, yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's about the best you're going to get out of me on an episode where we try to be, PG. Because there's a lot more I'd love to say about that thing. He brought a shotgun into a church in Texas, and he managed to kill initially one person. Another one has died, so there were two victims.
He only got 2 shots off.
2 shots off. And then a former reserve sheriff deputy, Jack Wilson, stood up and smoked this dude with a headshot from 50 feet.
It was a handgun, too.
Yeah, well, yeah. It was, I mean, smoke checked this guy from 50 feet with a handgun.
First shot.
One shot.
Boom! Dropped that dude.
Dropped him like a hot rock.
There's so many things that is impressive about that. I mean, first of all, you have an active shooter situation. For him to respond like that and to be able to get center mass.
No. It was a headshot.
Center headshot.
Like center mass, I can hit from 50 feet. You're talking about a little tiny head-sized target?
Even more impressive.
I'm blown away.
He had to shoot over an entire pew.
Well, he had to, according to what he said, he initially drew and got his sight picture on the guy, but then someone else panicked and got in his way, so he had to wait that extra, quarter of a second for that dude to clear his line of sight, and then he was able to shoot.
So impressive.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
What I really love about that is I've watched this clip a couple times. I wouldn't recommend it if you have soft tummies for that kind of thing. But after the guy fell down, you had people who had a slower response time than the guy who actually.
There were like 6 other guns in that room.
That was so awesome. 6 other people drew out after that guy dropped, ready to go.
Yeah.
Oh, that was awesome.
So he got off 2 shots and then got greased. But I'm willing to bet he may have gotten off like 1 more shot, but then that dude was going to do the bullet dance no matter what.
Yeah, he was gonna be holy in that church. Holy.
I see what you did there. I want some of that.
Boom.
Awesome. I love this because that people say, concealed carry shouldn't be allowed because, it's asinine to think that a concealed carrier is going to have the presence of mind to stop an active shooter. That theory just got shot in the head.
Yeah, proved that wrong, didn't we?
Yes.
Doggone. And I like everything that's coming out with the meme saying, the average response time for a cop is somewhere between 10 to 15 minutes for a shooting situation like that. That was over in 6 seconds. Less than 6 seconds.
Yeah. And it only took that long because he had to wait for someone to get out of his way.
Right? Man.
But I'll tell you one thing I don't like about this is there's a lot of companies already come out with T-shirts about this. Yeah.
What do you mean?
Oh, a lot of this guy's picture on a T-shirt. I don't even.
The scumbags?
No. The
hero.
The hero's picture. Okay. Mess with the flock, you get the Glock, that kind of stuff. It's like, come on, dude. I get it. The dude's a hero, but how is this any different than capitalizing on another tragedy? On the opposite side of the equation.
Yeah, that's rough. I get you want to recognize a hero because he did an awesome thing.
Right, but you're not recognizing him for that. You're recognizing him just to make money off him. You're using him to sell your product.
To make a nickel off of it? That's
right.
Not okay.
Not okay with that.
Okay. Can we talk about Pete Buttigieg?
Still well done, Jack Wilson. And yes, I guess we can talk about Buttigieg if we have to.
Okay, because I'm somewhat on board with what Pete Buttigieg is saying. I think this is the second time I've agreed with him.
Whoa, hang on. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Because the first time I agreed with him, he was making fun of Elizabeth Warren. And now,
I'm good with that.
I'm not totally on board with what he's saying because he never clarified what he was going after, but he was getting interviewed on one of his town halls again, and he said, we need to, he didn't say it this way, it was like 4 paragraphs long, so I'm going to sum it up. He said, basically, we need to decriminalize possession of all drugs. So you're including meth, cocaine, and ecstasy, so your hard drugs in that. So I don't agree with him that possession needs to be decriminalized because those hard drugs need to be stopped in their tracks, period.
Correct.
But I do agree that massive drug reform needs to be done in our country because simply throwing people in jail for possessions is not solving anything. And I would argue the point that it is making things worse because you get those people in jail and then they don't have a family unit at home and the cycle repeats, right?
Right.
So for me, what I want to do is I want to see the worst war America's ever seen is the war on drugs, right? It's one of the deadliest wars we've been fighting, one of the longest wars we've ever been fighting, and it's an impossible war, right? I mean, El Chapo and his billions have proved that, Mr. Shorty. And that war that just happened down south of the border where one of his kids got kidnapped and all of their warlords came out en masse, lit up that town and got him released out of prison.
Right.
It's a deadly war.
It is. It is.
So
and we tend, when we think of ourselves being in a war, we tend to only think in terms of U.S. casualties. There have been, it's got to be over 100,000 by now. 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 1 in Mexico. Because they've been losing like 10,000 a year, like whole villages being exterminated.
One of my favorite things that we always talk about is if you look at the color-coded map of Mexico of the drug cartels, who owns what area, more drug cartels own Mexico than the government, than the people own of Mexico.
Correct.
So what I want to do is I think it's time to get proactive about these situations. We know where the highway of death is at, right? Down there in El Salvador, Ecuador, where the drugs are being transported up through the south. We know where that's at. I think instead of spending the government money on programs here after the fact, after somebody's already been addicted to the drugs, we go down there and we do what we can to stop them in the tracks from even getting here in the first place.
And we do have, special forces units down there. We have DEA units down there doing that kind of stuff. But it's a drop in the bucket. And the problem is, in places like that, we have the largest undefended border on planet Earth. Like, it doesn't just come up land, it goes through, it goes from Venezuela across the Gulf of Mexico through staging grounds in Haiti, through, where there is no economy. Of course they're going to take drug runners' money.
Yep.
It's money. They don't have it. Their economy is the poorest in the world, or at least in the Western Hemisphere. We have the most porous border on Earth. And we can go there and we can do proactive stuff to help them, but there is more area down there where drugs are being produced than we can possibly control. It's the size of countries, but it's not in one place where we can just nuke it. Right. It's spread out over millions upon millions of square acres.
Yep.
So I would like to see, we just formed a 6th branch of the government, or of the military. We just formed the friggin' Space Force.
Yes.
I'm not kidding. I have a buddy who when he left for the holidays, he worked for the United States Air Force. He came back to work yesterday, and now he works for Space Force.
Does he really?
Yep.
How awesome is that?
Right? But you can have that. I guess we're patrolling space now. I don't see a reason why we can't have a military unit dedicated to border security.
That's where I'm at. There's always pros and cons we can talk about all day long about putting boots on the ground down south of the border. But for me, the pros do outweigh the cons, because now we can stop just shipping them money, right? And now we can do more people on the ground, and that helps because we can pump money into the economy the right way. Instead of giving them billions of dollars into a politician's hand, now we're sending people down there who can actually live, who need to shop, who need to eat, and if they get stationed down there and they bring the families down there, now you got schools that need to be built up. If you have permanent bases down there.
Yes, absolutely. And people say we already have the Border Patrol. The Border Patrol is laughably outgunned.
Laughably.
It is impossible to overstate how outmanned and outgunned our Border Patrol is. They are I wouldn't do it. They're some of the bravest people on planet Earth to face the kind of numbers they have to face with the technology and the manpower and the firepower that they have.
Truth.
These people have, an AR in their truck that's semi-auto, and a handgun, maybe a shotgun?
Maybe.
And they're facing El Chapo's guys who have fully automatic machine guns, every single one of them. It is amazing to see how these people keep doing their job in the face of that. Now, if you were to put, a wall there, guarded by people with firepower superior to that of the cartels,
Of the bad guys, okay.
right?
Yeah.
I'm seeing a huge reduction. Boost Coast Guard numbers, get some more interdiction ships down there in the Gulf, stopping those go-fast boats that bring drugs in by the ton.
That's something you always preach day one in the military and any sports program is your best offense is your best defense. You want a good offense? Start with your best defense, right? But that doesn't mean you don't have an offense and only focus on the defense.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So this would be use our offensive capabilities defensively to keep them from getting in?
So it's more talking about you need to build up a solid defense.
Gotcha.
Defensive
Gotcha.
plan.
I'm smelling what you're stepping in.
Working in the offense. All right. So that's where I'm at. Yes, I agree with you about building the wall, it is necessary, but it doesn't mean we forget about getting offensive about the situation.
Absolutely.
Boots on the ground, down there, punches in throats.
I am totally fine with that.
So back to Buttigieg and what he was saying, we should definitely not decriminalize all drugs in this nation. We tried doing that with, well, I don't want to cross that line because, yes, you can make the argument that marijuana is healthier than like alcohol or tobacco and all that, but we don't need to go down that road. If you decriminalize drugs, you will see, I don't know what you're going to see, Armageddon. People, I mean, you made marijuana legal and it still didn't stop all your illegal marijuana farms.
No, it didn't.
So
it didn't.
I don't think it's going to help the situation. But I agree with, if that was his idea, his intent, that we need to start taking a different approach to how we approach the war on drugs.
Right.
Okay.
At this point, I think I care less about what the solution is than finding a solution. I think this is where the American republic system is supposed to do its job. You're not supposed to have one big blanket answer for the drug problem everywhere. You're supposed to have 50 different solutions in 50 different states where everyone does what needs to be done at their level to solve the problem. And when one of those systems starts working, then other states will try it, and eventually it'll, make its way in whatever form it does to actually solving the problem. But I mean, I don't know. I don't think this needs to be a federal thing.
Yeah, less government is the answer to this situation here. More government if you're talking like military down there.
Right.
Making it happen. Okay, enough of that.
Yep.
China. Genocide.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know. Oh my gosh. Go ahead.
Because it's communism and they can do that kind of thing.
And the whole world knows about it, and they're still doing that thing.
Right. And this is I just saw this story again in the New Zealand Herald. But the first articles on this were back in like 2015.
What they were doing to these people.
What they're doing. Okay, so in China, there's a group of people called the Uyghurs, Uighur. They are Chinese Muslims. They are an ethnic minority there in China. They've been there for hundreds of years. Since Islam made inroads into Eastern Asia through what's now Pakistan, Afghanistan, that part of the world, it reached over into China, and in eastern China there are whole enclaves of Chinese Muslims, devout as any Muslim out there. But the Chinese government is state-sponsored atheism. You're not having your different sects out there.
Yeah. No missionaries of any religion are allowed to go there and proselyte.
No, definitely not. And any religions that were already there are very tightly controlled, and they're trying to be stamped out as fast as China can. But what they're doing to these Uyghurs down there is, it's unthinkable, and it is genocide. It's just a slow-moving genocide. They are deporting men by the hundreds of thousands to re-education camps where they're being taught to abandon the Quran, abandon Islam, and embrace atheism.
And they're actually doing promotional videos of people who have graduated
Right.
those
Right.
re-education camps and coming out and being allowed to re-enter society.
And that is the most 1984 thing I've ever seen. When they come out and they love Big Brother. And it is shocking. So that's the men. The women are being sent somewhere else.
Can only imagine.
Where men are being appointed to sleep with them. This is the Edward Longshanks version of genocide. This is Edward Longshanks was the King of England, who
Prima nocta?
where he allowed English soldiers, English nobles, rights to sleep with women, Scottish women, on their wedding night because they were trying to breed out the Scots.
Yep.
This is China's attempt to breed out Muslims by having atheist Chinese men live with and sleep with Chinese women in these massive camps.
So
that is the most unthinkable thing I think ever. It is state-sponsored rape. You are doing this to women who do not consent.
Exactly.
These women are married.
Well, they were
A lot of them.
in China. Now they're married to
The state.
yeah. But I think that I want to paint a better picture of this, because it's not simply these women being taken and given to another Chinese dude. These and living in a comfy home, and now they have some make-believe Big Brother family.
Right.
No, this is the most horrible of circumstances you can imagine for these women. I mean, it's China. They're probably being thrown in some dark dungeon somewhere where they have this husband who comes in and does his dirty deed with her and walks away. And then if they get re-educated, maybe they'll be able to get out and go live with this family.
And there's pictures of these camps. It's barracks living. It's living like you do in the military, where it's just big camp, got your little barracks hut where you have a bed, and your man comes in and lays down and sleeps with you. And it's actually called the Pair Up and Become Family program.
My gosh, China.
Right?
And they promote that too. They're not shy about
Right.
what they're doing here. And that to me is what bothers me
Yes.
most about. I shouldn't say most, but it bothers me. That they can promote this, the entire world society is aware of what they're doing, and China says, yep, we're doing it. Here's some promotional videos about it.
Yeah.
What you gonna do?
And it doesn't even stop there. There is so one of the things that is extraordinarily sacred in Islam is you're dead. Right? I mean, you can do just about anything as long as you don't mess with their dead. Right? We found that out in Afghanistan. You know, you don't search graveyards. The Taliban have no problem hiding weapons in graveyards because they know we don't go there. But if you're going to search a graveyard, you send the Afghan soldiers with you to go in and search it.
Okay.
And you direct them from outside. You don't go into their graveyards. You don't mess with their graveyards. But the Chinese government has been going in and destroying hundreds of thousands of graves of Chinese Muslims. They've been going in and just destroying whole cemeteries.
Wow.
Yeah. That's what you can do when the government can do whatever it wants. If your policies don't align with theirs, sorry for you. There's no recourse. You can't petition them to stop. You can't go out and fight them because you don't have the means to resist. And they made sure of that as soon as, China, as soon as the communists won.
So if we could reel all this back into something that we wanted the Platoon to take away from what's going on in China, what would you want them to take away from this?
Don't surrender your agency to anyone, least of all a large government. Don't ever give up your ability to determine your own future. That is the greatest gift God gave us, was the ability to self-determine, was our agency, our free will. Now you can say that people make bad choices with it. That's the point. That's the whole point. People are supposed to make their own choices, good or bad. And it's not your place to determine what's good or bad for them. If you see someone making bad choices, by all means, try to help them. If one of your friends or one of your family's on drugs, by all means, try to help them. But to force them to give up their own autonomy to fit what you think is best for them, no, that has never led to anything but abuse of power.
Right.
It has never led to anything else. In any government that has ever existed, when it has too much power, it abuses it. The first thing they will do is say that they've got your back, they've got you covered, you don't need to defend yourself, they'll do it for you, and then you have no rights because you can't assert yourself.
And that could be a theme of our whole episode today, because when we're talking about guns, the government trying to take away your guns or trying to have too much reach into the war on drugs, where I think more of it should belong to the citizens, to the churches, to the charities, trying to help those people recover, and not your government-funded rehabilitation programs. Same thing that we're seeing here. If you give the government too much power, they will abuse it.
Yes.
And you can see what we're doing in America. I mean, is it too much of a stretch to say that if we keep giving America's government more power, more money, that we're going to end up like China? No, it is not a stretch. History has proven that through dozens of countries over there.
Well, we gave the government a lot of power from in the right after World War I. We had Woodrow Wilson, who was an open racist and an open supporter of fascism. He gave us the income tax. We've never gotten rid of it.
Go to Texas. They don't have income
Right,
tax.
Roosevelt was president. He was the first and only president to break Washington's two-term rule. It's not written anywhere. It wasn't written anywhere at the time that a president could only serve 2 terms.
But was after him.
It was after him because he was never going to give up power. A person should never have that much control.
And that we need that instituted amongst the Congress as well.
Among every form of government, I'd say,
2 terms.
including the Supreme Court
Oh, definitely. That should not be a lifetime
or
crime.
all federal courts.
So yeah, to sum that up, man, guard your agency with jealousy.
Yes,
Protect that at all costs.
absolutely. Never give up your right to self-determine.
Okay, last thing, which I think is super awesome.
What you got?
Going to Mars. NASA has built a $2.5 billion rover. They're saying that it's supposed to go to Mars in the summer of 2020. We'll see about that. I doubt it. But they say it is due to launch here soon. And this thing, so it's huge, right? It's about the size of your bunker here. It's massive, this rover that roves around Mars.
How are you getting it there? How
rover?
are they getting it there?
I don't launch it on a rocket? I don't know.
Oh,
How did they get the other ones there? There's one there now called the Curiosity.
Yeah.
It's not the first one that's going to get over there.
Well, we've already put one there. We put one there in the 90s, a little skateboard that malfunctioned as soon as it got there. And Curiosity's there, but Curiosity's, the size of this desk, maybe smaller. You're talking about something like this big that's going to Mars?
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah.
It's massive.
This is our bunker's bigger than the lunar capsule, and we had to design whole new rockets to get that there.
This thing is massive. What gets me about this is that just to make this thing operate on its day-to-day function, it takes 300 people to operate this. So, calling all you gamer nerds, you want to play remote control with the little car on Mars.
I'm willing to bet it doesn't take 300 people to do this.
But by golly, the government's going to hire them and pay them.
Darn right. NASA is an overreaching government agency. It was receiving $12 billion a year in the 90s to run a fleet of 7 space shuttles. It's receiving $12 billion a year now to run a fleet of 0 space shuttles. We don't have the ability to send astronauts into space anymore. We send them up via Russian rocket because we don't have the ability to put our own astronauts in space when we go to the International Space
So many
Station.
things are broken. And that's what happens with government programs. I love the idea of going to Mars. I love this kind of exploration of space and Mars. I think it's great. But this is the kind of stuff you let Elon Musk go out there and try to handle, or
Yes.
the Virgin dude,
Virgin Galactic.
the British guy. I forget his name.
Yep.
But he's trying to send his own rockets into space too. They're going to do a lot better job of it than the United States government has ever done.
Right.
And they're going to, yeah. So I support this, but I do think that NASA should have like a team of a dozen people in the government program who oversee what Elon Musk and the other guy are trying, or lots of other people are trying to do now.
Why?
Because if they're doing something, if they're going to be sending people into space, that I want, okay. There's got to be, I don't want them abusing that program. I don't want to say, okay, you can have now tourist exploration in space.
Why not?
Please just make sure you're not killing anybody.
Okay, so you want it there as a government presence to prevent other governments from doing the same thing and weaponizing space.
Say what now?
Because I really don't see a whole lot of need for NASA at all.
So you're saying just privatize the whole thing?
I think there needs to be, NASA should be like the original EPA. They have a mandate to do a specific thing and zero remit beyond that.
Okay, what's that specific thing?
The EPA was there because, the Ohio River was catching fire every year because there was so much pollution, and within 10 years, there were fish in the Great Lakes again, where they were dead, sterile waters before.
All right.
But the program never went away. It just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger until now I have to ask permission from the government to collect my own rainwater that falls on my own property.
Okay. Dragon?
NASA has gone into the business of climate science and proving that global warming exists because they have all the satellites that look down on us. I think there does need to be a government agency like NASA because the Russians, because the Chinese, because people out there who don't have our best interests at heart will weaponize space. You will turn that into a place that is every bit the battleground that we have here on the United States where, oops, one of our satellites nudged one of your satellites out of orbit. Now you can't, now your spy satellites are going down left, right, and center. I think there needs to be an ability to govern that, but I think the Space Force we're already building can do that. Merge NASA with that, problem solved. Let space exploration be done by private companies who can do it better and faster and cheaper than the federal government ever could. Because when you have stuff like NASA, NASA doesn't build anything. NASA has never built anything. They hire Boeing or they hire McDonnell Douglas or they hire, Northrop Grumman to build a space platform, but it's a cost-plus government contract, which means there is no incentive to deliver on time. There's no incentive to make it right the first time because you can make more money by building a crappy product over time that you then have to get more money to fix. There's never been a government program that hasn't done this, that hasn't suffered from that mission creep.
Yeah, and
make visiting space profitable, and they will do it the best, cheapest, fastest way.
So I agree with you that, all government programs tend to get abusive and they start overreaching, but the government in its infancy of what you want from your basic government is balances and checks in place. That's what I'm talking about. So I'm fine with combining NASA and Space Force. That's fine. That'd be cool, actually. But I want balance and checks done on these privateers going into space. For the same reason that, like the DOT is in place. If you got trucks coming into your state, into Potatoeville here, I kind of want to know what they're tracking. So I don't want them bringing people.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I don't want to bring in, nukes from the ground into space. Or stuff like that.
I get that it's hard to say that you want more government programs doing this, but for the bare intent of what you want the government to do, that's why I said.
Yeah, I want a government that fits in the box it came in.
Exactly. That's what, over the whole privatizing space exploration.
I can see that. I'm down with that. I can see that for regulatory purposes to make sure that everybody's playing by the same rules.
I like it. I love this though. And Elon Musk, he's joking now that he wants to send one of his new Tesla trucks to. But seriously, I think I would love to see it in my lifetime. I want to see us on Mars. I want to see a Tesla truck on Mars. I think it's awesome because they're even saying this new rover, it's got instruments on there that's going to somehow turn that atmosphere, like suck in its atmosphere into one of its instruments and trying to turn it into oxygen. I love this kind of thing.
All you need is a carbon filter. The atmosphere on Mars is carbon dioxide predominantly. Yeah. It's CO2. You just scrub out the C and you're left with O2. It's amazing. But
again, let the private citizens do that, not the government.
But don't put a Tesla truck there. Those things are god awfully ugly.
They're bulletproof unless you're throwing a rock at the windshield.
I'm just saying, oh gosh, that thing is ugly, and it can't even fit a single sheet of drywall in the bed. What would you use that for?
I don't know.
It's not a truck, that's for sure.
Okay, so I think it's exciting.
I love it. I vote yes.
Okay. And that wraps up our show for the new year, for the day.
For the New Year's Day, yes.
That's
only show of the year, folks. Hope you enjoy it.
Right?
Let's get a lot of views.
Come back 2021.
We love you, Platoon. You guys are awesome. Happy New Year. I hope it's awesome for you, and I hope you achieve all your dreams this year.
Hoorah.
We love you guys. And Platoon dismissed.
Simplify.